Hello and welcome to my series of conversations with stalwarts of music. Today's episode is being partnered by Perpetual Buzz Experiences, which is an artist representation company with three very basic but lofty goals. They are a launchpad for a lot of indie musicians, helping them leverage success in the best possible manner. And they also help generate funding for a lot of social causes and make sure people have a good time throughout the process. Be sure to check them out on www.perpetualbuzz.com. We have yet another podcast partner, which is Wire Up Music Store, one of the finest music retail stores with state of art equipment, your one stop solution for musical equipment, ranging from guitars to ukulele, percussive instruments to classical instruments. Do check out their Instagram page, which goes by the handle @wireup.india. Speaking of my guest today, he's from the world of blues and rock music. He's a guitar virtuoso and a prolific singer. He picked up the guitar at the age of 4 and he saw his older brother play the guitar and he started to play it in a very unorthodox style, and that devised a technique for a lot of future guitarists at this point. So he's got a knack for it. By his early teens, he put out his first album, signing a major record deal. Carlos Santana had quoted him as Jimi Hendrix of our generation, and he joined forces with Santana at the popular Woodstock Festival in 1994. He's won the award for Best Blues Artist of the Year on multiple occasions and is considered to be one of the top guitar icons when it comes to his guitar abilities and shredding. His all-new album Crown has topped the Billboard charts and is in the initial round of Grammy consideration. Without any further ado, I'm delighted to welcome Man of the Hour, Eric Gales, who will be joining us shortly. Namaste, Eric. How are you? Which part of the world are you in right now?
I'm at home, man. Just waking up.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, are you getting enough sleep these days? Because last time we spoke, you've been doing some intense touring all over the world.
Yeah, I mean, rest is very minimal now. We just got back a couple of days ago from Cali. I was doing a lot of writing and I've been catching up on rest because in the next couple of days we start rehearsals again. So
Okay.
you know, hey, it's things are picking up, so we're getting pretty busy.
That's wonderful. You have a rhythm and blues cruise show that's lined up for sometime next week, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, we leave out Friday for the legendary rhythm and blues group.
Lovely, lovely. And you have the Joe Satriani G4 experience for next year.
Yeah,
Looking
yeah,
forward to that.
it's happening in January. It's pretty exciting, and
Uh-huh.
we're looking forward to it.
Wonderful. And also the much awaited farewell tour with Buddy Guy. That's also in the
Yeah,
pipeline.
yeah, that just got announced last week, and we're very
Wonderful.
excited for that. And Buddy's a good friend of mine, and
Uh-huh.
it's been long awaited to be able to tour with him, and I just look forward to it. It's going to be awesome.
Great, great. So I'd like to firstly welcome you to our program, Stalwarts of Music. It's a great privilege to have you with us, Eric.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me.
I'd like to start this interview with a greeting of peace. Ordinarily, in the world, a lot of us are obsessed with the notion of happiness. In your tradition, what is this notion?
Man, no stress, no
Mhm.
worries, just being at one with yourself.
Okay, okay. Eric, you've been on stage and performed for more than 4 decades. I'm sorry to by implication suggest your age. Could you express the sense of timelessness that is encompassed by such a deep, ingrained artistic sensibility? When people talk about you, they say that there's no dividing line between Eric's musicality and everyday life. What is his artistic sensibility for someone like you?
Man, I just try to be the best me that I can be, and it subsequently comes through, my music. As I'm a guy. I like all kind of styles. I like everything, and
Mhm.
you know, I don't like really the labels and the being labeled or whatever. It's just music is what comes out, and that's the best way I know how to express myself, and that's the best way that I can be artistic in what I do. So
Got it.
that that's about as simple as I can get with that answer.
Mhm.
I just try to be the best me. I try not to be, and you get caught up trying to be a whole lot of other things that other people want you to be. And I just try to be the best me that I can.
Got it. Got it. So if I were to put it in words, it's the simplicity that sort of defines the person you are, and of course the musicality also, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Speaking of the Eric Gale's band, it was a family affair. You had your older brother Eugene Gales on bass guitar. What was a eureka moment in your careers where you looked and realized that we are global stars at this point and there's no looking back now?
Uh, I mean, just actually going on tour, man. We had never done nothing like that before. So,
Okay.
we signing the record deal, flying to New York to sign the deal, and it's that was a pretty big deal, for
Yeah.
especially for me.
Yeah.
At
Yeah.
15 years old, that's a pretty big situation. So, um, just all of it, man. But yeah, actually knowing that we were heading on tour for the first time was like, I would say, that eureka moment.
Got it. Got it. So it was more of a family affair, and I'm sure, it must have been a very proud moment for the entire family to sort of reach
Oh yeah, of
this
course,
endeavor.
of course, of course,
Right?
of course.
During your formative years, you were exposed to a musical environment which had a lot to do with musical forms. Were you doing so because the form excited you, and in your life you wanted to give it a shot and explore boundaries in music, or did the thought that this is the form and this will be best to communicate what you intend to communicate with your audience? What takes precedence in this kind of a situation?
Actually, both of those that you mentioned
Uh huh.
played a role, and just out of curiosity
Yeah.
and just to see if I could learn it, and then
Yeah.
begin to start diving into different things and start liking it.
Right.
So they both began to cultivate who I was as a musician, just as a player. Because at that point I was very primitive into finding myself. I mean, I'm still on the search to find myself, but it was uh, it was a very joyous voyage into searching for those things that uh, eventually would be what would be life inspirations and life influences for me. So I'm glad that I set off on the journey.
So, talking about the creative side of things, I'm sure while it's underway, there'll be different states of mind that you might go through, right? So, while it's underway, is that an agonizing time, or is that a time of complete flow and surrender for you? What is it like?
Um, it's definitely either way of how I'm feeling. It's a time of complete surrender.
Hmm.
Um, you know, um, I wouldn't say agonizing. It is, I think about a lot of things that are somewhat painful to think about, but for some reason that translates into some of the most powerful musical expression for me. So,
Yeah.
with that being said, it's kind of it's kind of a combination of both. Yet again, on that front, it's I definitely enter it with reckless abandon, and I just let everything flow, and tears, laughter, whatever that comes out is the result of the emotion that I am involved with during the time.
Wonderful. But this process might require some form of discipline, right? So, how important is discipline for someone like you in this pursuit?
Uh, I mean, it is. It's very important in other ways, but in the presentation of me and being on stage
Hmm.
is it's a form of discipline, but then at the same token, it's a form of, like I said before, it's a form of reckless abandon too.
Right, right.
I call it to me. I use this term, organized chaos, uh, and
Yeah,
that's the best example I can give for it.
got it. Let's talk a little bit about your songwriting process. So, what is sort of the balance in terms of writing a song between the process of exploration and between the process of concluding it, right? If I had to express this much better from a layman's point of view, let's take the example of a painter. He or she might tell you that while painting, they don't know where they're headed with it, right? So they might start with a particular intuition and then
Mhm.
it evolves in terms of their expression or in terms of their inner journey, right? So that sort of runs concurrently with the painting as a whole, right? So there is
Right.
some process of discovery which is associated with it. So would it be fair to say that your writing process is similar based on the example I quoted?
That's very similar. Actually, it's the exact process.
Mm-hmm.
It's the exact same process. I'm glad you brought that up. It's the exact
Yeah.
same. There is a blank canvas there, and
Uh-huh.
you know, depending on the mood at that time and the feel, and you know, is going to determine somewhat
Yeah.
what lands on the canvas. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Uh, Sometimes there's a previous idea that's bouncing around that I might you know have to start with, and most of the time it's just a random pick up the guitar and this what came out.
Yeah. So it's a process of complete flow and surrender, and then you improvise over it.
Yeah, yeah.
Lovely. Your music also, I've been listening to it for a couple of years now, and it has a great deal of intellectual rigor, right? You've engaged in many layers and dimensions of creation. You've been awarded the Blues Artist of the Year on multiple occasions, right? And there are a lot of areas that you've been trying to explore, and they are possibly circumscribed in the sense that music is both a form of art and it is also an industrial product at the end of the day. Are you somewhat inhibited by the fact that music is also an inhibited industrial product? And we do not have like common forms or mechanisms or processes that kind of help you gauge this entire thing, right? So would it be right to say that we'll give you some form of money and you can express what you want from within, right, from your soul, from within your soul, as an industrial product? So what is your take on something like that?
No, not really. I don't. A lot of that I don't. That's the farthest thing from my mind. Again, I trust the process with what it is that I tap into
Uh-huh.
that allows me to do what it is that I do,
Yeah.
and the end result, or who and how it goes to where it's going, is not my. It's sort of my responsibility, but it's not really my concern.
Right.
It's you know if it has went through the musical washing machine, if you will, if it's went through that, and the whole process of coming through, mind, body, soul, hands, instrument,
Yeah.
uh, to the speakers, to the listener at that point, where the receptors take it to is, and how the receptors take it and how it's then um, categorized or placed in a uh, box, if you will. I hate to use that word, but placed in categorization is not really my uh, that's not really my wheelhouse. I just try to do what comes out, and it
Yeah.
just works better for me. I am very very capable of, if there were a task given to me to write for something specific.
Hmm.
Uh, for certain things, I collaborate and do other projects and stuff like that. But as it pertains to my own particular, and even then, doing stuff with other people, there's an element of me that is still utilizing a form of reckless abandon when an idea is coming to my mind and I just let it flow. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got you there. In terms of your tradition, right? You've been held as the preeminent part of a whole range of musicians uh, who have sort of transcended through several eras, right? Like if we were to consider musicians such as Muddy Waters, Albert King, Jimi Hendrix, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Eric Johnson, Joe Bonamassa, and many more. So, what was your association with some of these contemporaries I mentioned, and how much do you see yourself as part of this movement or this collective? I'd also like to understand from you what has been the sense of community and fraternity from some of these musicians who are gone from this particular era that we live in?
For me, all of those consist of a big old bag that they all fit in for me. That has some way, form, fashion, or another has
Uh-huh.
been a very important part of inspiration for me
Right.
on a daily basis.
Right.
For me, they all have had the capability to cast this spell, if you will, over me that leaves me in awe
Uh-huh.
and standing frozen time when I hear them, all in their own separate ways. When I hear them, and to be um, able to be blessed with avenue, a gift, if you will, a allowance to uh, uh, be a part of that powerful inspiration and influence to carry on to the next generation is such a huge embodiment of how evolution is supposed to be,
Mm-hmm.
uh, naturally done, because that's how it came to me. Uh, and continuing on to inspire, you know, musically. Um, but on a sidebar, there is not very much that I can recall about my influences that I recall hearing about their personal lives
Right.
that was I don't want to say that sets me different from them, but I have, I wear everything that I have done in my life on my sleeve. And I, explain a whole lot about myself at the beginning of every show of the things that I have been through that I think encapsulates being able to touch and reach those that may be at a show that aren't musicians, those
Right.
that are at a show that have no idea what a pack of strings
Mm-hmm.
are. And being able to touch those along with touching those that are savvy and involved with
Right.
what guitar strings are and are there for the music. I uh, want to extend what's happening in the movement that I am pursuing to people of liking music and people that don't like music. For the people that just got drug out to a show that didn't have no idea what they were going to come see,
Mm-hmm.
and wind up hearing a personal part of this person's life that could essentially change theirs.
Got it. You did.
That may be one of the most important, detailing answers that I can recall ever given in my life to a question, because that ultimately is. It's not all about. It's not 100% about the music, though. It's a heavily, uh, heavily dosed part of the music that is involved with who I am, but uh, well, just within the past 6 to 8 years has been more of the personal story behind who Eric Gales is that goes into why he plays what he plays, and
Right.
why the emotion comes, and why is it so emotionally charged and intense and driven,
Yeah.
to be what it is. It's because there are things that I'm not afraid to show, vulnerability wise, that
Yeah.
people that like music and also people that has nothing to do with music, I believe they need to see.
Right. As you beautifully quoted, this has been a process of evolution for you, and we've seen like so many different faces, and we've seen you transcend through all of these spaces, right? As an artist. So I'd like to know from you, how have you evolved as a human being, and how is that reflecting in terms of your work, right? So I'm sure after several many decades of experience that you carry, you've started to see things from different angles, different perspectives, and different points of view. So how is Eric Gales the human being apart from the musician and what have you? So how have things changed from the 90s, and in what ways have your aspirations changed, and what are you now seeking for?
Well, in the '90s, I was under the tutelage of my older brothers. I mean, I was basically told to not worry about nothing but playing, and
Right.
that's the things that I supposed to be.
Uh-huh.
That was my only responsibility. Eric, you just play, and we got you. We got you. We ain't gonna let nothing. And my brothers and my Hubert Crawford, Eugene Gale, Selton Cole, they all looked out for me, all the while at the same time keeping me very abreast and knowledge on things that were happening in my career and my professional life, so that if there were ever a time that my brothers and older band members were not around, I would be savvy of what's going on in this treacherous music industry. So I was always being told on a update status on an update status by my bandmates on, Eric, this is what's happening. We want you to understand. Even though I was a kid,
Hmm.
uh, my brothers and them always said there's gonna be some times that gonna come around that we're not always gonna be around, and I didn't
Sure.
understand what that meant, early on, and so how that's evolved is, then they went through the times that I was, very careless and didn't care, even though I was aware and knowledgeable of everything, I just didn't care because I was so engulfed with heavy addiction and this and that. Now moving on up to have been clean for quite some time, just a little bit of time, if you will, stepping into the leadership role and stepping into,
Yeah.
that I have a responsibility of, of a crew and a team that I'm responsible for. That, if I sink this boat, then there's a lot of lives that I'm responsible for. You know what I mean? And
Sure.
there's
Yeah.
a lot of things that, decision wise, I have to make for the good and betterness of the people that I have working for and with me. So that changes from how I originally started into, now, it's, if you're a leader of a band or whatever it is, I mean, it's like a business. It really is. I mean, yeah, the ultimate is to play, and that's what I love to do. But I incorporate myself with a great team, and got my wife and co-management and website, crew, and booking agent and things of this nature, and publicists and stuff like that. But
Right.
it all ran as a business. I mean, yeah, the music is what it is, but there has to be a balance on each side to, you know regulate that, or else you just dealing with a runaway train.
Mhm. But do you find some commonalities or some common strands between the person you are and the music that you play, from a day to day life point of
I
view?
mean, yeah, yeah, because the way I
Yeah.
live is kind of free. I live as a free person.
Hmm.
By that, I just, come what may, you can only take 1 hour at a time. And that's how, 1 second at a time, and that's how I do it on stage.
Right.
That's how I do it musically. So there is, uh, you know, somewhat of a mirror reflection of who the person is as a human being and who the person is as a performer. Uh,
Lovely.
you know, there. So
Right.
that kind of works to my good. Speaking to the fact that I'm not conflicted with this potential Jekyll and Hyde, or I don't have to take one costume off and put another one on. It's still the same person.
Sure. So, if we were to compare, say, a popular musical form
Yeah,
compared to a niche like the blues, right,
yeah,
which has a lot to do with the classical form, the very classical form
yeah.
it is, right?
Uh-huh.
So it's definitely evolved over centuries, and you have sort of had like a natural flair for it, and you've been able to transcend it in our era, right, where people listen to a lot of other commercial popular forms. So what prompted you to sort of take this legacy forward?
I mean, it's kind of just what naturally came. Uh,
Hmm.
the thing about all this is it's not been something that I had to think about. It just kind of naturally happened, man. And I don't have a particular um, one statement that will sum up, you know,
Right.
the process of how taking the old and carrying that with me into the new, and because at core, I am still a classic. you know you know
Right.
Blues is what's at my core. Gospel is what's at my core, and that is the foundation of who I am. Regardless of whatever you throw into the mix, there's still going to be a heavy presence of those early two influences in my life that's in there, and that is a testament to styles of music. I mean, unless specifically that there's a target of a style that has been platformed to focus on when it comes to Eric Gales's input. There's definitely still going to be uh, an awareness of that's Eric Gales. That's
Right.
who Eric Gales is.
Yeah.
And in part, I that part I can't help. Uh, nor do I try to help it. Because it's who I've evolved into. On one setting, but then on another on another front, there could be a whole nother platform that Eric Gales has evolved into. There speaks back to the wide mass of different styles that I like to hear, and I like to engage in, and you know I like to dance around in. So
Mhm.
it's it's quite the buffet of of uh, of a lot of things that's involved.
Got it. Uh, are you a spiritual person in general?
Yes, I am.
So what role does spirituality play in your life?
Man, just keeping myself at one with, I call him the big man upstairs. Just keeping myself at one with the big man upstairs. Everything else doesn't
Right.
matter. I know that one there is some being that has given me a covering over my life, because have left up to me, you know, I would be dead, and I don't understand why I'm not. But having another chance at life, just life in general, let alone another opportunity with a resurgence of my career back again. But I'm very spiritually aware that there are aspects of my life that has been touched and covered by my spiritual maker. So I am very um, unswayed on anything else other than that being the case and scenario as it pertains to me. So that's the best way that I can answer that question.
Mhm. But what are some of the spiritual techniques that have helped you with your music?
I honestly don't really have a lot, man. I just, occasionally, you know, have a conversation, get
Hmm.
quiet, have a conversation with, and I'm being more so, the techniques more so happen in the midst of while I'm playing.
Right.
So things come to me while I'm playing that, is a conversation that only I and my spiritual provider are aware
Hmm.
of. Some get this conversation through prayer, some get it through meditation. Me, I get it
Sure.
through music. And there's not really no, sitting with my legs crossed or, you know, uh, 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 you know, I think you can be, I think you can be spoken to, if you will, in any encounter, any manner, any time of day, through
Yeah.
sleep, through dreams, through just randomly doing anything else. Yeah, you can be spoken to through animals. You can be spoken to through a lot, but I'd say that more so often I am. I feel a heavy presence of my spiritual being through my music, and it's really undeniable as to that is the presence that I'm feeling. Uh, you know, just speaking about it just gets me somewhat warm talking about it. But and it's not anything that I have to intentionally focus on. I just know that my spiritual provider is with me 24/7,
Hmm.
24/7, in the good and the bad, as a musician and as a human being. And I'm very, very thankful that uh, a spiritual hand has been placed on my life. And, I pray from
Yeah.
time to time that the covering comes upon my family and my kids and my grandkids and my wife, of course, that's, been by my side, that has helped me
Hmm.
to, on a daily basis, try to be a better me,
Sure.
uh, for, all parameters, being a better husband, a better father, a better bandmate, a better leader, a better, brother, a better everything that I can potentially be to, essentially, benefit from the things and the fine things in life that I so recklessly denied myself of for quite some time. And, this is all still a journey for me. And I'm still primitive in this journey, but, you know, the journey is worth the travel. And I, continue every day to just try to do something a little bit better today than I did yesterday. And, and just keep going forward. Like right now, I'm feeling compelled to, even though the people watching this may not know, I'm feeling compelled to apologize. I mean, I overslept, and I'm
That's all
sorry.
right. That's all right. Don't worry.
I
It's a
did
very
look at my,
human thing. Don't worry about that.
and,
Yeah.
I've been trying to catch up on rest because we've been,
Yeah. I
putting
understand. Yeah.
putting a lot of work in which people will
Yeah.
see how much work has been put in. They can't see it right now, but there's a lot of things that,
I'm sure.
like we made it into the first round of the Grammy consideration. So
Yeah.
we're, very excited about that after 40 years in this industry, or with my craft, 44 years in my craft, as a matter of fact.
Hmm.
That is a personal achievement that if it went no farther than just being in the first round, that's a huge accomplishment. And of course, I hope to, make it to the next round and essentially win a Grammy. I mean, yeah, but if I don't, is it going to diminish me? Is it going to plummet me? No, I'm still going to, I'm going to keep doing what I've been doing prior to even being a part of the Grammys,
Yeah.
up to this part. But definitely, I am very humbled and feel so honored to, finally, after all these years, for those that may think that, life is over and this and this and this and this and that, take my story as an example. You can, you know, there is a redemption. there is, a resurge. There is a rising up from the ashes like a phoenix. There is a comeback.
Hmm.
The chapter of the book is not over until the book is closed. So
Right.
my book is very much open right now, and want everybody to stay tuned with more to come.
We're really looking forward to that. Is there some problem with the audio? Because I wasn't able to hear certain things that you said.
I'm
It's
not sure.
not
Is it
getting.
okay now?
It's a little muffled. You know, the
Yeah, I
audio.
don't know. I don't know. Is that better?
Yeah. Now it's better. Now it's better. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe my hand was
Yeah. Yeah.
over. I hope you got most of what I said because it'd be hard to remember. I mean,
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I mean, you very beautifully articulated the entire aspect of the hardships that you faced, and the milestone that you're at right now. And we are with you for your Grammy consideration, and I'm sure it'll pass through several other levels, and you'll get what you want.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about the new album. And like you mentioned, it's in the first round of its Grammy consideration for a best contemporary blues album. So could you tell us a little bit about the making of this very album, and how impactful were the contributions by Josh Smith and Joe Bonamassa in this particular album?
Their contributions were very, very. They were very, very pivotal in helping me, you know, have the best performance and involvement that I could, have. This is like a dream team. This is like, the A game. This is the Olympics that put together to make a record. And I honestly feel like we achieved the gold medal with all parties involved, writing and, the substance and the vocal content and the vocal performance and the songs, their meanings. And I think it's just it's a record that touches on some very deep topics, and it's just having a great conversation with the listener. Having a conversation with the listener and that's just what it is. It's a conversation. I'm not yelling. I'm not shouting. I'm not screaming. I'm just having a conversation through musical performance with the listener of this album, and hoping that everyone gains, an intelligent, interpretation from the things that I'm saying, and make you think a little bit. This record was put together in a very organic way. Nothing was forced about it. The material and the songs that were written. We were there. I was there, and with my finger on the pulse on everything involved, collaborating with everybody, and it was great. If I had to do it all over again, I'd do it exactly the same.
Lovely. It was quite intriguing to see that very video featuring a duel between you and Joe Bonamassa, and Keb Mo being a referee. So whose idea was it to sort of conceptualize such an interesting thing going on, having all these legends in this particular niche?
Actually, it was my idea.
Oh,
I actually
wonderful.
I had a dream about it, and
Okay,
you know, you know, and the director Nathan, director and his team, and we all came up with a story plot to make it happen, and I think it turned out well.
great. So, coming back to our conversation, we have a lot of people tuning in from India and rest of the world who are
Oh
on the
wow.
live stream, and they are very keen in knowing some anecdotes from your Indian tour back in 2017, where I saw this picture of you and Mrs. Gales in a very elegant white kurta pajama. So, what was it like in India? And have you developed an affinity towards a particular Indian musical form after your visit to our country?
So how we wound up in those outfits is that our luggage didn't make the trip with us, and we had to go find some clothes.
Uh
And I mean, it turns out that it was a great, honestly, it was a great fashion statement.
huh.
um, we get comments about that picture a lot, man, and we had a wonderful time,
Yeah. Yeah.
with Billy Gibbons in that picture, and we had a
Correct.
wonderful time in Mumbai.
Right.
It was it was really awesome getting to see the land and the country of India. Having not been before, and we truly hope to be able to come back there again.
Yeah.
The people were very receptive, and the energy was amazing. And I look forward to being able to come back there. And throughout my show, there are certain nuances of Indian influence that will come through in my solos or I may play, and I just am reminiscent of our time there. We had a wonderful time there in Mumbai.
Lovely. Did you enjoy a particular cuisine? Indian cuisine? Any particular
I
dish?
didn't venture off too much, man. And I'm very particular about what I eat. I don't. There are
Okay.
certain things that so. But I just know that we had a wonderful.
Lovely. We're really hoping to have you soon in India. When are you coming here?
I don't know yet. Nothing is on the schedule for it, but I'm sure next year we'll heal and prepare a whole lot more things as it
Okay.
pertains to myself.
We're really looking forward to that. By that time, you'll also have your Grammy. Hoping,
I
hoping for
hope
that.
I hope so.
Looking forward to that. As we touched upon the aspect of human nature, I'd like to ask you one more question. So tell me, do you have faith in human nature? The fundamental goodness of human nature, in a sense, because much of what we are fighting against has to do with the grossest expressions and manifestations of human nature, right? So the violence and the terrible carnage that we saw in Ukraine, so much that's happening around us in terms of issues related to the environment. We ordinarily associate art as something very pure and clean and wonderful, a very blissful experience. So, do you think that human nature is fundamentally good?
I think they want to be, but my thought of human nature is not so good at the moment. We're divided in a whole lot of ways, and
Right,
like that's not something that's supposed to cause divisiveness amongst human beings, and
right,
uh, it's very discouraging to watch, and I just don't know, man. I just don't know. I don't have very much faith in what we call humanity right now, and that's pretty sad. Pretty
right,
sad.
right, right. So, in terms of your upcoming initiatives or your upcoming projects, so what are you currently involved in, apart from the making of the album, which was
Uh,
yeah.
just writing, man. Doing more writing, preparing for the next thing. Got some
Uh-huh.
things outside the box that I'm working on.
Hmm.
Uh, just getting prepped up and prepared for more touring and getting geared up for next year.
Hmm.
As you've seen, the announcement for the Buddy Guy dates and
Uh-huh.
more in Byron Bay and New Orleans Jazz Fest is on the brinks. It hadn't been posted yet, but from what
Right.
I understand, there's talks about playing there, and just carrying the Air Gales brand on, man, and keeping it moving.
Lovely. Lovely. You must have done 100 interviews as a public figure. Since we've come to almost the conclusion of this particular interview, is there a question that you felt that you should have been asked and you weren't?
No, actually, you've done pretty well, man.
Great.
You've done
So
pretty well.
I have one last segment before we conclude this interview. I'm going to be asking you some very spontaneous questions. You can't think too much. You can give your answers right on. All right. So my first question for you: what is that one song that always makes you cry?
May This Be Love by Jimi Hendrix.
Lovely. On the contrary, what is your favorite guilty pleasure song?
Uh, man, I actually don't have an answer.
That's all right. So, if you had an opportunity to put together an all star blues band together, who would be in it? I know it's a very broad question, but
Man,
you have to handpick some people.
myself, Gary Clark Jr.,
Hmm.
Derek Truck,
Hmm.
um, uh, Eric Johnson, um, Anderson Pack,
Wow. Incredible.
uh, Mono Neon, um, Corey Henry,
Right.
Trombone Short.
Lovely. Lovely. That'd be a massive band. Out of all the musicians that you've been inspired by over the years, some of them who aren't with us today, unfortunately, who would you have wanted to jam and collaborate with the most?
I mean, of course, I would want to have sat down with Jimi Hendrix. Of course, I mean
Right,
that would have been the ultimate. I mean, as that would be, I believe, the answer for
right,
100 out of 100 people. That if you were to ask them that, that probably would say the same.
right, right. Let's talk about fashion. You've got a great sense of fashion. What kind of jewelry would you like to sport and make a fashion statement with?
I mean, I actually kind of do already.
Right.
Man, uh, I don't know, man. I don't know. Just anything blingy, man. Anything
Anything
iced
bling?
out. I
Right.
like the ice and the bling. So,
Lovely. You got taste.
thank you,
What's your favorite cuisine?
dude. Anything my wife makes,
Lovely. So, what's like your favorite go-to dish on a Saturday afternoon?
baked chicken.
Baked chicken. Lovely. Great. So, I have one last question for you before we conclude the session. Uh, this is like a custom in all my interviews, and I ask all of my distinguished guests this very question. Uh, Down in the distant horizon, what would you want to be remembered as?
I want to be remembered as a black man that went through a bunch of mess, a bunch of crap in life, but fought back and gained his life back, man, and tried to live at peace with myself for the
Right.
rest of my day.
Lovely. That's a lovely take to life, and a lot of musicians who've been possibly inspired by this very interview. This
Thank you.
interview is also going to be additionally aired on Big FM Shillong and Azol, two incredible radio stations, and it's going to be part of my all new series, Stalwarts of Music, which is streaming on multiple streaming platforms.
Thank
So
you.
I'll be sure to share the links with you once the episodes are out.
Thank you, man.
And I'd love to stay in touch with you. Thank you so much for taking time out uh, in this early hour and making this happen. It's been an incredible blessing, honor, and a privilege. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time, Eric.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Great. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.